They say cemeteries are for the dead, but in Oregon, there is one graveyard where the living whisper about a set of rules that must never be broken. Locals call it Hollow Creek Cemetery, a place hidden deep among moss-covered pines, where fog clings low to the ground and shadows linger longer than they should. Travelers who wander in at night discover signs posted on rusted gates. The words are faded, scratched by time, but the message is clear. Cemetery rules. Do not enter after midnight. If you hear a woman crying, do not search for her. Never step on an unmarked grave. If a lantern appears in the fog, do not follow it. Leave before sunrise. They sound like folklore, the kind of warnings teenagers laugh about before daring each other to sneak past the gate. But those who break the rules, those names are carved in local newspapers, missing person lists, and whispered legends. Imagine driving a back road at midnight, rain streaking your windshield. A wrong turn brings you to the cemetery gates. The trees loom high, branches bending like claws. You tell yourself it's just another graveyard. But as you step inside, the fog thickens and the silence feels wrong. At first, there's only the crunch of wet gravel beneath your shoes. Then, faintly, a sound. A woman's voice, soft, sobbing. It rises from somewhere between the headstones. Rule 2 claws at your memory. If you hear a woman crying, do not search for her. But curiosity is poison here. One man, an out-of-town hunter, heard the crying and thought someone was hurt. He followed the voice into the fog. At dawn, his truck was still at the gates. His rifle lay in the grass. He was never seen again. Another story tells of teenagers who mocked the rules, stepping across a row of crooked markers. They laughed as they posed for photos until one boy tripped and fell onto an unmarked mound. That night, he woke screaming, clawing at his chest, insisting someone was buried inside him. He didn't survive until morning. Rule 3 exists for a reason. You press deeper into the cemetery. Lantern light flickers between the trees, golden in the mist. Relief washes through you. Someone else must be here. You take a step forward, then stop. Rule 4. If a lantern appears in the fog, do not follow it. The light drifts away, weaving between the graves. For a moment, you see the shape of a man holding it. Face pale, eyes hollow. Then the lantern fades, leaving only the dark. Your breath quickens. The rules aren't warnings. They're instructions for survival. The stories become darker the longer you listen. Hollow Creek Cemetery isn't just a place of rest. It's a trap. Locals say the rules exist because something inside the gates demands obedience. Break even one, and you draw its attention. There was a man named Ellis, a gravedigger in the 1950s who worked late one night. He was the first to document the rules, scribbling them in a pocket journal. According to his notes, he often heard footsteps when the ground should have been empty. Once he followed the sound of sobbing into the fog, convinced a mourner had stayed too long. What he saw instead was a woman in black, her veil dripping with mist. She lifted her head, and where her face should have been was only raw earth. Ellis fled. He left the cemetery that night and never returned. But his journal was found tucked beneath the caretaker's shack. Witnesses since then have told similar stories. A trucker named Jonah pulled over when his headlights failed near Hollow Creek. He wandered in with a flashlight, hoping to find help. When a lantern appeared, he followed it. His wife later found the flashlight lying in the grass, beam still on, batteries drained. Jonah was never found. A group of college students from Portland once filmed themselves daring each other to enter after midnight. In the video, they laugh and joke until one of them steps on a mossy, unmarked mound. The camera shakes as he stumbles, screaming that something grabbed his ankle. the footage cuts abruptly. The next morning, police found the camera at the gates. It played back only static after that final moment. And then there are quieter tales. Stories whispered by locals who claim the cemetery shifts. Some say the headstones rearrange themselves, paths curving differently each time. Others describe fog that bends sound, making voices echo in strange directions. One man insisted he could hear his own name whispered from beneath the soil. Still, the most chilling are those who claim to have survived. They followed the rules exactly, ignoring the sobs, avoiding the lantern, leaving before sunrise. Yet even then, they carried something away with them, a shadow that lingered in the corner of their vision, footsteps behind them on lonely roads, dreams filled with the cemetery's crooked gates. The rules, they say, don't guarantee safety. They only give you a chance. Imagine the main horror event. A boy sneaks in on Halloween night, carrying only a phone light. He films the cracked angel statues, the Rose of Korii. At 2:37 a.m., the sobbing begins. His breath catches. He whispers nervously to the camera. He breaks Rule 2, stepping toward the sound. The crying grows louder, pulling him deeper into the fog. Then, silence. The phone clatters to the ground, recording only the sway of grass. When police retrieved it days later, the screen showed faint impressions of hands pressing against the lens from the inside. This is why Hollow Creek is feared. The rules aren't suggestions. They're barriers, fragile ones, against whatever waits in the dark earth of Oregon. And every broken rule feeds it. Theories about Hollow Creek Cemetery swirl like mist around the headstones. Paranormal researchers argue that the rules are not arbitrary. They are bindings, carefully designed to limit the reach of something ancient. The crying woman, they say, is no spirit of grief, but a lure, a mimic, an echo designed to pull the curious into the soil. Once you seek her out, you mark yourself, and the cemetery claims you. Skeptics try to explain it away with science. They point to Oregon's damp climate, the way fog plays tricks on sound, how exhaustion in the dead of night distorts perception. Crying in the mist could be distant animals, the lantern glow a refraction of light through fog. But skeptics cannot explain why the same stories repeat across decades. Different witnesses, same rules, same consequences. Local historians offer darker context. In the 1800s, Hollow Creek was a logging camp. An epidemic swept through, leaving bodies unclaimed. Burials were rushed, shallow, and many graves went unmarked. Survivors told of hearing voices at night, begging to be remembered. Some say the rules are warnings left by early settlers who realized the restless dead demanded boundaries. Another theory holds that the lantern is a will-o'-the-wisp, a supernatural flame that leads wanderers to their doom. Folklore across cultures tells of ghostly lights in swamps and graveyards, luring travelers astray. Hollow Creek may simply be Oregon's version, intensified by the sorrow of those buried there. But there is one twist that unsettles even seasoned investigators. Reports that the cemetery sometimes appears where it shouldn't. Drivers claim to see the rusted gates on roads miles from the official location, appearing like a mirage. Some even insist they woke after a restless night, only to find dirt beneath their fingernails, as if they had walked the graveyard in their sleep. If that's true, then the rules extend beyond the gates. The cemetery itself may be less a place and more a presence, an entity that follows those who know of it, whispering until they obey or vanish. And so the rules endure, written on rusting signs, scribbled in journals, passed down in hushed tones from parent to child. They are more than warnings. They are survival guides. Yet the question remains, who created them? And what happens if all the rules are broken at once? Some say the entire cemetery would awaken. the earth splitting as unmarked graves release what they've hidden for centuries. Others claim the rules are traps themselves, that by following them, you acknowledge the entity, giving it power over you. Perhaps the only true safety is never stepping foot inside at all. Still, curiosity draws people in. The thrill of testing boundaries, the arrogance of believing rules don't apply. But at Hollow Creek, the ground keeps its own record. Every footstep is remembered. Every breath taken inside the gates belongs to the cemetery. So the next time you drive Oregon's back roads and see fog rolling low across the trees, ask yourself, would you dare to step inside Hollow Creek Cemetery? Would you risk hearing that voice in the mist, or glimpsing a lantern drifting just beyond reach? And if you did, would you remember the rules? Because those who don't come back. If you enjoyed this nightmare, like the video, subscribe, and join us on Silent Screams 50 as we uncover more terrifying rules and haunted legends across America. And tell us, which rule would you fear breaking most?